Okay. Then there are different chemicals which can do those things. And so those are the examples. So what are we saying? When you reach this point of identifying, don't just rush and pour your answers there. Read the scenario. If you notice that they have brought modern medicines, mention that the drugs are modern medicines. If you look and you can even tell the type of modern medicines, mention them, but you don't have to explain. You're just saying the person used modern medicines. In particular, they used antibiotics and analgesics. The example is not an important bit here, but the categories are important. I hope I have made that clearer.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Okay, Renkoba.
Yes, madam.
Yes, I can hear you.
What about when I state the category on part A and I continue without explaining more about it?
Actually, that's what I've said. You're not going to explain. This item does not require you to explain further. You will be doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Community 2, I'm taking 4 hands and I move on. Community 2. Okay, community 2 seems, yes, community 2.
The question is like this, yeah? There are some mock bodies that I have seen. On part A, they give only identify the category of the product. And they have told us that you give the category and the function. Is it right that when they have not asked you for the function, you must give it?
First of all, you're not going to sit exams. Let me start by saying you're not sitting exams of the mock bodies. You're sitting UNEP.
Okay.
UNEP expects you to bring out these demands. If you look at the item I've shared, actually it's from a mock body also. In A, you're not writing the full answer to get the score. You're only bringing the categories. Then when you write how it works in B, they combine those two to give you the full score.
Okay.
So read the questions and answer them as they are. Otherwise, even in UNEP sometimes, the parts can be separate, but the people going to mark you will know that to give you that final score, you need to have answered a certain part correctly and also the other part correctly. Leave the marking for us. You go and read and prepare, okay? Read the different categories, know how they work, know how you can identify them from a story, and you will be ready. When the questions come, please answer them as they have been set. Okay?
Thank you.
The last question I beg to take is going to be from Kumi Seed. Yes, Kumi Seed, secondary.
Yes, fine.
Please draw nearer to your microphone. I can't hear someone's.
Yes, madam. What about when I give the category of the drug used by volcano and pollute separately? Like, for example, volcano use antibiotic medicine while potato use analgesics. Am I wrong?
You're very correct. Actually, we accepted that. It's okay. As long as the words antibiotics and analgesics for this case, as long as they come out in your answer. So I'll emphasize the category. You will mention only one if you put them together as modern medicines. But otherwise, there are two different types of modern medicines. Those are antibiotics and analgesics. Now, from the kind of questions you're asking, I can see you have read. Can you read your chemistry? Then when you get to that paper, answer the questions as they have asked them. Don't worry that now I have written modern medicine. Why do I write analgesics? If you can see that there's an analgesic, there's an antibiotic, put it on the paper because they just want the category. So there's nothing wrong with you saying they are modern medicines. And may I have noticed they are antibiotics and analgesics. Please do not regret having not written your correct answer. Put it down and move on. But for now, we are preparing well by reading. So I beg to move to the next element of construct. Of course, I'll wind up this element by pointing out that you can have items on medicines, you can have items on food additives, you can have on nuclear processes, and you can also have on detergents. So read that chemistry, because the part of identifying is usually very easy for the students, but the part on how they work makes the candidates miss the scores for the first competence. Even the dangers associated, you're writing them badly. So let's practice that. And we also practice on writing similarities and differences between different products, okay? Someone is trying to enlarge their screen. I don't know how I can help you, but please stop annotating our diagram. Okay, I'll go to the next element of construct. And in this one, they set questions for you to see if you have managed to appreciate the diversity and interactions of substances and their importance in life. There are so many substances in our lives. Do you notice how they interact and so on? That is what is tested in this element of construct. There are so many topics from which items for this area can be got. Many of them are senior one topics and people play with them. In senior one, you studied the topic of elements, compounds, and mixtures. So an item can come from there. Senior two, you did the periodic table. Senior four, you looked at the periodic table again, but now you were identifying trends. And the trends we usually study are for members of period 3. Those are elements sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine. And then, of course, you can wind up with your argon. Can you tell how they behave? Are all their melting points the same, or they keep decreasing? Are their boiling points the same, their densities, how they react? Do they all react in the same way? So that is under the topic of trends in the periodic table. Then in senior 3, you did also the topic of structure and bonding. You looked at the ionic bonds, covalent bonds. I think those are the 2 bonds in particular, and metallic bond. Can you tell the structures that come from there? What are their properties? Can you explain them? So those things are going to be examined in this element of construct. The mole concept. Can you tell relationships between masses of different substances? If I burn 5 grams of this, can I tell how much of the other will be produced? Mole concept does not only have those mass-to-mass relationships, it can have relationships in volumes. Can you tell when I heat this amount of a certain solid, what volume of gas will I get? Mole concept has empirical formula. If someone carried out an experiment, can you determine the empirical formula of the substance they were dealing with? And then the other area which you shouldn't forget in mole concept, I think, is percentage composition. All those can be examined here. Then senior 1, you did using a topic called using materials, where you manage to classify all the materials we use in everyday life as either being synthetic or natural. you should be remembering. I think polymers is senior 3 work, carbon in life. You saw polymers, you saw plastics. Can you recognize them? Can you recommend them to be used for certain things? Do you know the dangers that come from using them? All those are for there. And then reactivity series, senior 2 work. The main takeaway from reactivity series is that we look in particular at the reactivity series of metals, and we see that different metals react differently. Do you recall the reactivity series? Do you know the elements which are very reactive? Can you recognize them from reactions? Because in all our test items, they'll give us stories. Someone carried out an experiment, then they put a metal on water and it darted all over the surface and caught fire. When you hear that, what does that tell you about the reactivity of the element? So we shall have stories and we need to get answers to put down from the stories. Another topic is the topic of air. And that one in particular, there is rusting and combustion. All these can be examined under this element of construct. Although, because there are not many past papers, the most common questions you see are on materials, synthetic and natural, on plastics, and now mold concept, because it appeared in the exams. So my advice is go back and read this content, especially since some of it is senior 1 work. How can you recognize an element? What are the properties of the elements? How can you recognize a compound? How can you recognize a mixture? Mixtures, there are some which are uniform, which we refer to as homogeneous, and those which are not uniform, which we refer to as heterogeneous. How can you recognize them? What are some of their properties? Because this element of construct or this area, you must be able to recognize the substance. You must know some of its properties and also some of its uses. Then you must also know the dangers that this substance has when it is poorly disposed in the environment. So I think I've talked about what the demands are. Usually they'll give you a prompt, a question, which makes you to identify the categories of the substances which are in the scenario. And sometimes, don't worry, some of you manage to look at marking guides. You find they have brought many categories. Yes, the same thing can be in different categories. Last year, we had carbon dioxide. It was a product to be identified. Carbon dioxide is a compound, so you could identify it as that. It is a covalent compound. It is an oxide. It is an acidic oxide. So that is why when you leak some of these guides and you look at what we use to score you will find that there are many alternative answers. For you have to write only one, which makes you happy. So identifying will work, but this time, unlike in the first item, you're going to give us a reason. Why do you say it is a compound? And in most cases, the reasons are the definitions of those terms. So that is why I'm going to send you back to go and do you know what an element is? So that tomorrow when you say iron is an element, why are you calling it an element? You must know the definition of an element that it is. It's because it cannot be split into simpler substances by chemical means. So part A, you will identify with a reason. Then the second part, you will now have to bring out characteristics of the substance you identify. So my dears, or properties, go back and revise. Do you know properties of different elements? By the way, what are the categories of the elements? The categories you're going to have could be metals and non-metals. Do you know properties of metals? Do you know properties of non-metals?
But no.
That is something they are going to examine you on. Is that okay? Then, if it is a trend, I want to remind you so that you don't forget. If you look here, in the third topic is a topic called trends in the periodic table. For trends, they are not going to ask you for the properties of one substance, but they'll ask you to predict how do you think the 5 other substances are going to behave when heated? How do you think their melting points are? So you must have that ability to show the prediction, and you're getting it from your knowledge. Now, this competence has been made bigger. It can be, you can also be required to give a use. We are going to see the way the questions are. They ask you, why is the substance suitable? For something to be suitable, it means it has the good properties, and you also know the use. So you will also mention a use. But just like last year, this area also had a calculation. I have told you calculation can be, you're relating the masses of different substances, or you can be relating mass to volume, or mass to volume, volume to volume, or determining empirical formula and so on. Practice them, okay? Then the last thing that they need to check for all those things you're talking about, do you know the danger they have to the environment? You see, we want to make sure that you people who are graduating from UCE, you can take care of the environment. Everything that we have around that man has made seems to have a danger. But we don't want you to just give us a danger. Tell us how it is going to be mitigated, so that we are training and churning out responsible citizens. So just like in the first case, I'm going to give an example of a test item. Okay? Let us look at that. Again, from one of the papers that are circulating around. Mwine is a renowned environmental advocate. He wants to install the door and window frames for his house under construction. He wants to have the best frames by selecting the right materials with suitable qualities and properties. Mwine is confused with the choice and has approached you for some advice. So do you see how useful your chemistry is? So you start now advising Mwine. But you're supposed to use your knowledge of chemistry. So let us see chemistry here. 1, explain the categories of materials that Mwine should use for his frames. Should use as his door frames. I think it should have been door and window. Which topic is this one coming from? Let me hear some answers. Is it periodic table, trends? Lenovo, there is someone with a computer called Lenovo. I don't know. Lenovo, could you unmute and answer?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening to you.
For me, I think this comes from materials.
It's coming from the topic of using materials. Very good. But there can come questions. Oh, sorry. Let me mute you. Okay, you've muted. The question could come from another area, but this one is using materials, and this is the one we had even from sample papers. So the categories I would expect are natural materials or synthetic. But I said here, we are not just identifying the categories. We must explain them. So we are going to give the name of the category and give the reason. But because Mwine doesn't even know, we give him even an example. So let's be kind enough to Mwine. So we shall explain the categories and give the reason and give an example which is appropriate for window frames. I have seen candidates who in such a case will say, for example, natural materials, then they define natural materials, and they say, for example, cotton. Really, do we expect Mwine to use cotton to make the window frames? No. So our example must be a material which can be used to make the frames. Okay? Then we go to the next one. The next one, talking about suitability, is loaded. This one has minimum, if you're writing lines, there must be a minimum of 5 lines. At least 4 properties of the material you chose, so be careful. Some of you like thinking of weird materials which are not easy, whose properties you do not know. No. In suitability, that is where we are going to give the properties of the materials and give at least 4 properties of one material and even attach a use to one of them. Okay? That is what is needed there. If there was a calculation, its scores would be attached to this, but this one does not have a calculation. Then the last part, advise Mwine on the impact of the materials on the environment. We want a negative impact. Even if the material is very good, if you do not know its negative impact, don't use it. Because here, want a negative impact, you explain it to us and tell us how to mitigate it. So for you, my candidates who are preparing for exams, I'll tell you this, go and revise the impacts of elements, that is metals and non-metals, the impact of selected compounds, the impacts of different mixtures, the impacts of acids, the impacts of what? Rusting. You need those negative impacts along with their mitigation. So that is item 2. I want to believe that it is clear, but I can take a question or two just to clarify some things. I'm ready to take questions. I don't know if St. Albert SS Kachindo has a question. Yes, St. Albert. Okay, St. Albert is fine. Jubilee, your hand is still up. Is there a question from Jubilee? Oh, St. Albert has unmuted, okay. Yes, St. Albert, we are listening. Sorry, I don't think I can hear them. Okay, let me pick some others. Chigando, Seed School, Chigando. You can unmute and ask. Chigando, yes, Chigando, please unmute. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Madam, I wanted to know whether I can use Madam, I wanted to know whether I can use metals or non-metals as the category, or whether it is recommended to use building materials as the category only.
Oh, good. That's a good question you have asked. When these questions come, they are general. As long as the category works, it will be allowed. In this case, you're telling me, can I use metals or non-metals? For me, I don't know which category of, when we use the terms metals and non-metals, we are using them, for us as chemists, we are using them as elements in the periodic table. So are you telling me non-metals like sulfur can be used for construction? In the same way, are you telling me non-metals like chlorine can work? Or that I can use a metal like sodium? So because of that, I said this particular element of construct spreads through many areas. If you are lucky and you use a metal and you give an example like iron, you will be safe because iron is a metal that works. But my dear, we don't use all metals for construction because some of them are very reactive. Some of them are too soft. Mercury is a metal, but it can't work. So let us be careful as we are answering and let us pick the appropriate category. That is why I asked someone, which part of your chemistry could this question have come? This particular one seems to have come from using materials. And under using materials, you had natural and synthetic materials. But if a question comes to do with elements, I'll expect you to mention, because elements are grouped into metals and non-metals. So at that point, it will come. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to say definite no or yes, but read the question and pick the appropriate substance. Okay. Who can I pick? Rafiki? Rafiki Carmen Perez. Yes.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening to you.
There are some times when they bring that we advise on the choice. Am I supposed to give even the impacts on the environment as the impact or not?
First, wait, advice on the choice of materials as part B. Yeah, those are some of the old questions. Yes, the items have kept improving. If you have not yet written the properties, the reason why you're going to give the advice on the choice, you're going to tell the person, this thing which I'm telling you is hard, it is malleable, it is ductile. So at that point, you're giving the properties and the one use, usually on the choice. The one for impact on the environment should come out clearly. What is the danger or what is the impact of using the material? That is when you should clearly come out and tell us the dangers. Okay? I believe the questions, the test items you're going to have in your name will be very well written, and you will tell whether it's now time to write the impact or not. Okay? Can I move on? Charity College, that's the last question over. Charity College. Charity College, I've asked you to unmute, yes. Over to you. Seems the people in Charity College are having issues. I see also St. Albert Kachindo has come back. Let me ask them to unmute and ask their question. Yes, St. Albert.
Good evening, madam.
Yes, good evening to you.
I have a question, and it is just on the identifying the category. Now, for that case, if I identify the category and I say the category are permanent and temporary, is it correct or wrong?
Now that's a good one. What reason will you have for calling? Here, remember you're giving category and the reason and the example. So can you give
now
me?
I can give it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can give it in this way. I can say the categories are permanent because they last for long. For example, metals or iron. And then the temporary are naturally or exist naturally. For example, trees or wood. So I can say.
Oh, I think I understand you. Though you seem to be mixing up two concepts. Permanent and temporary are changes. They are not materials. They are permanent changes that substances undergo. They are not materials. Here they want categories of materials. So it's unfortunate if you give permanent and temporary, you'll definitely not get any score. Why? That's why I'm saying, my dears, go back and read from that list. Which materials are there in elements, compounds, and mixtures? Which materials are there in polymers and plastics? You get it. But there is nowhere where I have talked where the material is called permanent change. And there is nowhere where we are going to call the material temporary change. So changes are not materials. So please desist from doing such a thing. I still see some hands. Lenovo. Lenovo, can you wave if you have a question? Okay. You can unmute Lenovo.
Okay, madam, good evening.
Good evening to you.
I only have one question. Does the suitability and the suitability of materials fit for every question that requires it?
Have I understood your question?
Okay. I mean, if you take this scenario that explain the suitability of the materials, it means the materials that this woman has used. Okay, they can bring a scenario whereby they need the ones for windows, for those shutters and everything. Do you mean that you may give the same suitabilities for all those questions, or you just rely on the nature of the materials?
That is so good a question. Yes, and actually you seem to have had the answer. You are going to look at the nature of the materials and the purpose. If I was picking a natural material, for example, like wood, when I want to use wood as a window frame, I am going to bring those properties of wood which make it a good window frame. You get it? I'll talk of it being hard and so on. But assuming I wanted to use wood for insulating, maybe to prevent electricity from passing somewhere, I will now pick properties of wood which make it good as an insulator. So yes, that is why you read the scenarios. Come October, you're going to read the scenarios and find out today, what do they want to do? Which material can I advise this person to use? And why have I chosen this material? So please don't just cram that I'll always write these properties for metals, for example. You pick out the properties of the metal which make it useful in that particular context that has been provided. So thank you for bringing that. You see, your items are being set because they know you have used these materials, you've used these things. So prepare well and you will answer well. Do not cram the answers, okay? Thank you very much for that. I'll give the last chance to Bukedi College, Kachonga. You can unmute and ask.
Good
I
evening,
see
madam.
many hands are up, but I have nothing to do. Yes, Bukit Village.
I was actually, I want to inquire about the meaning of choice, because when we had a lesson, a teacher told us that if they bring choice, they need the differences. And if we have said, once they bring choice, they need the properties. How do you answer that question? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, there are many questions around, but I don't think they are going to bring choice alone. One word, that choice. Read the English. I believe we can understand the English. Okay. I said that word choice sometimes is used in item number 1, which I have just finished. Where in the old questions, I think we were writing, help the advise on the choice of the material. But that one was evaluating when you want to advise me to choose between Panadol and what are the antibiotics? Panadol and the antibiotics have gone, and penicillin. You're going to tell me both of them are modern medicines, but one is going to relieve pain, another is going to kill bacteria. You will have advised me. So please do not just cram words. Go and read the context. Item number 1, the last part, you are going to be talking about similarities and difference. Here, my item does not have the word choice anywhere written, if you look at it. But what are we saying? In the story, the man is the one who is confused. Which materials can I choose? After being confused, the person setting the test item has come out for you and told you, help this man like this. First, explain to him the categories of materials. And we have seen how to explain. You mentioned the category, the reason, and the example. Okay? Then they are telling you, again, after doing that, explain to this person how suitable those materials are. And I have said there you're writing 4 properties and at least 1 use. Then to help this man choose properly, you are now telling him the impact of that material you've been talking about. What is its impact on the environment? You tell him, Munange, the thing can cause this danger, but it can be mitigated. By the time you finish, Mwine will have made up his mind and will be able to make a good choice. So I don't expect us to just cram words and move with words, okay? I see there are so many hands up, but I beg to move to the next element of construct. That is the third one. Here, they are going to test whether you, the person taking the test item, have managed to appreciate the contribution of chemistry to our economy. And when I say our economy, to the money the country gets, to the riches of Ugandans, has chemistry managed to contribute to our living good lives? So in answering this test item, you are going to show how chemistry can contribute to the economy of Uganda. This is the only test item where you'll find even answers talking about money, because chemistry is contributing to our economy. And the topics, they are actually all processes. The way chemistry contributes to our economy is in the manufacturing process. So all the manufacturing processes you studied can be examined in this element of construct. This element is examined with 2 test items. That is test item 3 and test item 4. Both of them usually involve manufacturing processes. The demands, if you're going to show someone that you really understand how chemistry is useful to Uganda's economy, there are certain ways you're going to answer that question, and I'll walk over them quickly. But let me first point out some of the manufacturing processes which you must know as you prepare for the exams. We have chlorine, the extracting of metals, that's also manufacturing, because you're getting a rock, which is crude, and you're managing to get out a metal, sodium, aluminium, copper, or iron. Fertilizers are very good at boosting our economy in agriculture. Cement, sodium hydroxide, sulfuric acid, ethanol, biogas, and detergents. All of these are things studied in what? In secondary school. I see I left out, I think, lime. Manufacture of lime is also on our syllabus. It is a manufacturing process. So all those processes, when you're answering, you are bringing out how you have appreciated that chemistry can contribute to our economy. So I'll proceed. What do they require of us? This is a test item where the task is one sentence, not in parts like the other two of section A. So you must go there knowing how you are going to convince people about the importance of this substance, okay? So what is demanded for all those processes, manufacturing processes I have mentioned? You must know the full process of manufacturing. And how will you know that you know the full process? You must know all the raw materials for making something, whether it is chlorine, sodium hydroxide, oxygen, biogas, manufacturing a metal, extracting a metal. You must know all the raw materials. You must know the vessels which are used, because we don't use saucepans in the manufacturing process, but we use vessels which have particular names. You must know any chemical processes involved. When we say chemical processes, there are things where you're changing one material to another. So you must know the chemical processes. You must know physical processes. Are they just mixing things? Are they stirring them? Are they heating them? You must know those. You must know and be able to tell us that, when you do this step, you will have made the product. When we say conversion to the desired product, the desired product will be the thing you're answering about. If you're doing manufacturing of chlorine, then the desired product is chlorine. If you're doing manufacture of soapy detergents, then the soapy detergents are the desired product. So when you write your process, can you know that at this point, this is when the chlorine is made? You should be able to show us that you know. Many of those desired products are made when they are not pure. So you will go ahead and tell us how to make them pure. The processes are already written. And then we shall be very happy with you if you do all this in a coherent manner. When we say coherent, the right thing following the other, okay? So that is what is demanded for us. I usually say in your answering, this should be the first paragraph, first set of answers. Give the whole process, okay? For chemical processes, because I know you have issues with writing and balancing equations, use word equations. You can use word equations that the carbon reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. So you can write the word equation or write down a sentence like that. After that, remember this construct is checking if you appreciate the contribution of chemistry to our economy. The next thing, you should be able to tell us any side effects of this process. not side effects of the product that is being made, but as this process is happening, is there any danger that can happen to the people around? You will have to point out, and we need only one. You identify it, explain it, and as usual, you mitigate it. Then the last one on this one, tell us what the society will benefit from conducting that process. This is where money comes in. And the most common answer for this one is that whenever these factories are constructed, the people of the community will get jobs to work in the factory, from which they will earn money, and the money will be used to improve their standards of living. That is the beauty that chemistry contributes to our economy. Factories can be set up, people work there, they earn money and improve their standards of living. For some of them, not all of them, government can even get taxes from the factory, and it will earn revenue, which it will use to construct infrastructure for the community, and in the process, their standard of living will have improved. I'm answering part C. So those two are the most common because we are contributing to the economy. It doesn't mean they always work. I'll give you an example like making biogas. Many of you make biogas in your homes. You have one cow and you're making biogas, and the government is not coming to get taxes from you. So don't write that the government will get revenue. But getting jobs, at least one person can get employed at your biogas, the home biogas plant. And then they'll earn money and improve their standards of living. So just like the others, I'll give a test item for us to look at. Uganda recently did what? Placed an embargo. Uganda recently placed an embargo on exportation of steel products, which are used in the construction industry. And this has caused a rise in the cost of products in Uganda. In order to solve the shortage, the ministry, sorry, some of my things are moving all over. The Ministry of Mineral Development has asked investors to set up an iron production plant that will utilize the ores that are within Uganda. The members of parliament on the Minerals Development Committee would like to know how the process of production will be carried out without affecting the environment. Now they are giving you just one task, one sentence. As a chemistry learner, write a presentation that you will deliver before the community members. The first thing you must check, what am I manufacturing? Can someone tell us what is being manufactured in this case? But some of your hands never go down, you people. Charity College, could you answer that question? It can't. Charity has failed to unmute. Which manufacturing process are we dealing with here? I had someone talk. Okay, I'll pick another. Now these things of Lenovo, you people. Some of you are using names. Saint Bali Kudembe SS. Could you tell us which manufacturing process we are talking of here? Yes, Saint Bali Kudembe. Oh God, I can't hear them. Okay, I'll pick on someone. Mariam, hi. Yes, Mariam, hi.
Yeah, you are back on me.
Pardon?
So our question is iron.
Oh, it's iron. So I am going to beg you people to do this. At this point, the first paragraph or the first set of answers should involve the complete process of manufacturing iron. You tell us the raw materials, but notice in this scenario, they have said you're utilizing ores within the country. So which means you must know which ores of iron we have in Uganda. And you go ahead and use them. Is that okay? I don't want to even spend my time going into that process because I've listed about 7, I think there are about 8 or 9 processes you must go through. So describe the full process. Then go ahead, the next paragraph after writing the whole complete process with raw materials, vessels, chemical processes, physical processes, conversion to desired product, purification, and all your work is coherent. After doing that, go to the next paragraph and make another paragraph and tell us about the dangers of this process. Now, some of the common dangers you can look at the process. Does it produce a pollutant gas? Some of these processes like extraction of iron, I think it should be producing carbon dioxide. That is a very good side effect to write, and it's easy to produce, that the process releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, carbon dioxide has only one main problem, that it is the carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and it contributes to global warming. Because of that, this can be mitigated by planting trees. So what am I emphasizing? Do not tell us about the dangers of iron, but the dangers of the process. Look at the process. Most of these processes, their dangers come from their waste products. Which gases are in that waste products? Sometimes the waste products are liquids, the effluent. You find the effluent, if it is discharged in water bodies, will lead to the death of organisms. That is a danger. So you have to tell us, and then you tell us how it can be mitigated. So that is that. And then the last one, I have already talked about it. Contribution to the economy, we are saying people will get jobs, earn money, improve standards of living, or the other one. Okay, I can take some questions on this item before I leave it. Now, who is going to ask? Because I see so many hands up, but some of you, your hands, I don't understand. They are staying up forever. Some people cannot see, so they are leaving. Kumi Seed. Kumi Seed, can you unmute and talk? I hope you.
Madam, when
Yes,
people are raw materials, side effects, mitigation, and social benefit without the process of production, will I be penalized?
What if you write raw materials, side effects, and social benefits? What will you get? I have to first point out that those are 3 different competencies being tested. If you write only raw materials, that is for the first competence, you will get the least marks because you know something that when they are manufacturing iron, they use this raw material. Then, if you come to the side effects, if you do not explain and mitigate them, again, you will not get the full score, okay? So you'll end up missing some marks. Then the last one, social benefits, if you don't write it well also, you will miss some marks. But I don't think I'm talking to people who are going to produce partial answers. Go and prepare now, okay? So that you are ready to produce the best thing, right? Can I have another? Oh, yes.
What if I don't want the process of production? How many marks will I miss?
Pardon?
What if I do not write the process of production? How many marks will I miss?
Yeah, I'm not interested in marks you miss. Last year, if you didn't write the process of production, I think you lost 6.
Madam.
But that will depend on the scoring. Yes, another question.
If I'm writing the process of production, but I'm mixing the equation, I'm using the chemical equation and the value equation.
I beg that you go a little slower. I missed some words. Yes?
If I'm like I'm writing the process of production, but I'm writing the chemical equation and mixing all the
Okay, I've not had the full question, but the first part was saying if you're writing the process of production. And then I had something like if you're missing something. Let me say this.
The last question is, in this part here, is Gujarat going to say the manufacturer and extractions to manufacturers only?
Okay. Now we are going to have to use the chat because some of your signals are not clear. But let me emphasize from the little bit I'm getting across. You seem to be asking questions to do with what if you don't have the full score? If you do the full answer, if your answer is missing some attributes, you will get less scores. But there is a limit to how little you should have written. So, for example, on the process of production, the person who gets the maximum score must have indicated all the raw materials, the chemical processes, physical processes, vessels, conversion to desired product, purification, and their work should be coherent. That is the one who will get the maximum score. The others in between, depending on how many of those you have missed out, the scores start reducing. I want to caution you that there are even scores of 0 if what you have written is not at all related to what has been asked. So let's not take it for granted that you have to just get scores anyhow, okay? That is what I picked from the many questions. So when you, yes.
But I also have the question. What if I find the raw materials, still I include them in the procedure? Will there any matter?
You're writing the wrong raw materials and you include them in the procedure. The same wrong raw materials, chances are high you'll get 0. That's why I said there are scores of 0. You cannot tell me, you people, that I can mix sugar with the soil and I get a chapati. Even if you tell me mix them into a dough, press them until you get a chapati, then fry it. There is no way those 2 wrong things will get for me a chapati. And so I'm talking to people who are preparing. Go for all those processes, find out the raw materials. That should be the starting point. Then check the processes of production. They are not usually very complicated. They have about 5, 6 steps. And also know the vessels. If you do not know the vessel, at least talk of a big tank because this is manufacturing. Don't talk of saucepans. So things which are mixed are usually mixed in large things like tanks or large vessels, something like that should get you moving, okay? I don't know if I can take more questions because I want to move on. Lukome, SS Gulu, could you ask? Yes, Lukome. Please draw near your microphone. Lukome, the person who is asking, please draw near the computer. I can't hear. Oh. I don't know if I've heard that question very well, but it is something about having more than one answer. Your sound is not so good. I don't know if it's mine, but I'm not hearing certain things. You're talking about having more than one answer. I think that's what I heard. Usually, the people who mark you are expected to mark all that you put down. But I would advise a good student, if you know the correct answer or the correct response, why are you starting with the wrong one? Just to test people for that day? No, that is not a good thing. When they are scoring your work, they will look out, for example, on the side effect. They want one side effect identified, explained, and mitigated. You don't have to have 5 side effects. So go for that one. For all those processes, look at each process and say, when I'm looking at manufacture of chlorine, this is the side effect I'll write. When I'm looking at extraction of sodium, this is the side effect I'll write. You don't have to write 5 side effects. They will not give you extra scores for that. Okay? So I would advise you to write one, but if you have the time, write others. They will read through them and see. Okay? The challenge is many students who write more than one, you find none of them is well written and still they don't get the good score. So I would advise you to have one well-written side effect and one well-written social benefit. Okay? I don't know what is happening with your microphones, but St. Mary's High School, you could ask before I move to the last test item. Yes, St. Mary's. Hello? Okay, St. Mary's is having issues. I will ask the last one, Mayuge. I've asked you to unmute. Could you? Mayuge High School. People are suffering to unmute. Okay. One last lucky person. Oh, someone is talking.
Hello.
Yes, please.
What if you write a wrong equation?
You don't get the score for chemical process. Why are you people preparing to write wrong things? I'm worried. You have time to prepare, but the people going to score your work are chemistry teachers. So if you write a wrong equation, and it is the only one that you had written, then you don't have the score for chemical process. And that quickly reduces, you don't get the maximum scores. So thank you for that question. Actually, let me emphasize, can you write correct chemistry? Let no one deceive you that everything is going to get a score. You see what happens when they are scoring your work. For every correct thing, they put a tick and put a code that now this is a correct chemical process, a tick and a CP. So if for you, you've written 3 chemical processes and they are wrong, none of them gets the code and none of them gets that tick, so you miss out on that score. But I know I'm talking to people who are going to read and get the maximum scores. Okay, I want to... Yes, please.
There is a burning question from Mitala Maria. I think if we can only give them one more chance.
Okay, Mitala Maria.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Thank you, madam. Our question is about the equations.
Yes.
We were told that even if we don't include their equations in the procedure, in the process of production, we will be scored right. But I had a colleague there asking a question what if he or she writes a wrong equation, is it penalized? So I would like to know whether equations should be inclusive in the process of production.
Okay, thank you very much. Allow me to go back a little bit. Oh, sorry. To the demands of this item. You're talking about the process of production. To get the maximum score for process of production, all the raw materials must be mentioned, vessels must be mentioned, chemical processes must be there, physical processes, your conversion to desired product, purification and coherence. So I will answer your question by saying this: chemical process, correct chemical processes must be there. And as you read the different processes, you will find the chemical processes are not many. So you need to mention them. What do we call a chemical process? That is where you are having a change from one substance to another. For example, in manufacture of lime, you mention the calcium carbonate, when heated, decomposes to form carbon dioxide and calcium oxide. You have started with calcium carbonate and you've formed calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. That is a chemical change. The only comfort you can have is the chemical change can be written in 3 ways and they are all accepted. You can write a correct balanced equation, that is the one using symbols, if you're comfortable. Or you can write what we call a word equation. A word equation is where you put a plus, you write the names of the substance. Like I write calcium carbonate, then I put an arrow, and I write calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. That's a word equation. It's allowed. If you cannot write that word equation, the people scoring you are still lenient. They can allow a narration of the chemical change, where you just say the sentence that the calcium carbonate decomposes to form carbon dioxide and calcium oxide. Any of those 3, when seen, will receive a tick and a code CP, meaning that is a chemical process. But you are not going to get the maximum score if your description does not have chemical processes, some CPs there. I hope I've been clear.
Yeah, thank you, but there is one more.
Okay.
That in a support material, they can include maybe a photo, including, for example, when we are on the process of extraction of manufacturing of ethanol, they include a sugar plantation and maybe Kakira factory in the support material. So should I include that as a raw material for manufacturing of ethanol, or I go on as I know?
Can I say you're going to look at the scenario as it has been made? The support materials are supposed to make you understand the test item well. They are not supposed to force your answer to be in a certain direction. I would expect that if they brought for you manufacturing of ethanol, you would be free to describe a correct process of manufacturing ethanol from any raw materials that are available in Uganda, because we have different experiences. So I would not expect the test item to tie you to sugar canes, because some people know how to make ethanol from bananas, ripe bananas, others from sorghum. You get it? So the support material is not supposed to give you answers, but is supposed to make you to understand the problem so that you do what? You answer it correctly. So I would not expect someone to penalize you on information which was provided by the support material. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, Eva?
Yes, please.
I think Teacher Aggie also had a burning question. I don't know that she still wants to ask. Teacher Aggie?
Yes.
Was the question responded to? Teacher Aggie, are you able to unmute? Okay. I think I'm failing to get her. We can continue, Teacher Eva.
Okay. So I'm going to the last test item. It's usually in section B. Remember, we said we are looking at section B. And this block of questions are usually put out to see if you people appreciate that there are certain natural resources in Uganda and that they are important in our lives. That is all that the test item is checking. And the commonly examined areas where there are natural resources that you have studied are air, this is senior 1 work, water, senior 1 work, fossil fuels, senior 3, rocks is senior 2, and the minerals, you meet them in senior 4. Then you have carbon-based fuels. Those are the areas we study these things in chemistry. And in those areas, your teachers exhaustively discuss the natural resources. Uganda is endowed with these things. The first thing you need to appreciate about natural resources is that some of them are renewable, others are non-renewable. So even when you're answering test items here, you will find your beginning response is about showing that you understand. So what are the common demands of this? This area is usually tested under item 5 and item 6. There are 2 questions, you pick only one. Just like 3 and 4, there are 2 questions, but you pick one. But they are answered in the same way. So how would you answer a test item with 5 and 6? 1, you are going to read the scenario very well and know which natural resource has been talked about in your exam. So come October, you read item 5, you have to be a detective and you know, oh, they are now talking of this natural resource. That natural resource, when you identify it, put it in its category. Is it renewable or non-renewable? And give us the reason. Then you will also go ahead and tell us what chemicals, what things are inside that natural resource. Because this is chemistry, for example, if I take air, assuming you have looked at the scenario and this time in that village, people seem to be utilizing the natural resource of air, because I said this, we are checking if you appreciate that in Uganda, there are natural resources and they are important in our lives. So you read the story, you notice the natural resource is air. So you will begin by mentioning that the natural resource mentioned is a renewable natural resource. And you give a reason. A renewable natural resource is a natural resource which can be replenished when it is used up or within man's lifetime, whatever response your teacher gave you. For example, now you will give the example, though it's not scored, but give an example looking at the scenario. Which one are you putting? In this case, it is air. Because you're a chemistry student, you should have studied what air is made up of. So go ahead and tell us air is a mixture of gases, including oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and so on. Make sure if the natural resource has more than 3 components, at least you mention 3. I said least, so that's the smallest number. So you can mention 4, but make sure they are correct. So to get the scores here, all the 3 parts will have been filled. The correct category, the correct reason for categorization, and the components. Now, some of the natural resources do not have 3 components. For example, if you saw that it was water, you will say the natural resource is water, and water is a renewable natural resource. You give the reason why it's renewable. Then water is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen. No one is going to cane you for not having mentioned the third, because we all know water is a compound with only 2 elements. So that will be what I call your first paragraph. Category, reason, components. Then you will have another paragraph, which requires you to go back to the scenario and you see today in the story they have brought, how are the human beings in that village using the natural resource? But the thing you're looking at, there are bad ways they are using it. So you're going to identify which activity they are doing and the danger with that activity and its mitigation. Okay? You will find that you can have items on the same natural resource air, but at this point of impact of human activity, the answers vary because people could be, for example, burning plastics, so they are adding pollutant gases to the air. Another person could be overdoing what? You look at the activities they are doing and then you know what you're talking about. The third thing you're going to show to prove that you have appreciated that Uganda has natural resources that we use, you must tell these people what the future communities will benefit when they preserve the natural resource, when they use it sustainably. Usually, these are just uses of the natural resource, but they are not just listed uses, they are explained. Okay? For example, if air as a natural resource is preserved, then in the future, people will have a raw material for manufacturing oxygen, which can be used to support breathing of patients in hospitals. I have added some words. I have explained to the residents of this village what they will benefit when they use the air well. So do not just list it because the residents will say, So what does that mean? It has to be well explained. To bring out this point, I have this test item. Seems to be a big story, but we are going to identify the parts we want. And it's saying this. In Uganda, the discovery of natural gas and coal presents an opportunity for economic development as they are significant fossil fuels used for energy production and many other uses. However, the discovery in some parts of Uganda worries the local people because they believe it poses significant environmental challenges which they do not know how to overcome. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development has organized a nationwide media show on the theme, Sustainable Mining Practices and the Use of Fossil Fuels, to address the worries of the people. The task is one broad statement. Can you imagine? But sometimes they can guide you and tell you, give the importance of the natural resource and so on. So the task is, as a chemistry learner, write a presentation that can be used on the talk show. So your presentation must address the things I told you. Category, reason, example, components. First paragraph. Second paragraph is human activity and its impact with its mitigation. In the last one, benefits of conserving the natural resource. So we are all looking. Can we read that sentence, the test item, and you tell me the human activity that you're seeing talked about here? Let's identify the, sorry. Oh, no, sorry. I should start from the beginning. I'm sorry. Which natural resource is being exploited here? I would like some answers. Which natural resource? Some hands are up, but people don't answer. I fear to call you. Charity College. Please lower your hand. Okay, I'll lower it for you. Oh, Charity College, you can talk. They have gone. Okay, now who do I pick? Panyimur. Panyimur SS, your hand is up. Could you identify the natural resource? Panyimur, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Madam. The natural resources is air and fossil fuel.
What is taking you to air here? Can you identify the sentence that is taking you to air?
I think the natural gas.
Oh, now is natural gas air? Which category of, so what is natural gas?
Yeah.
Natural gas, you studied it with coal in senior 3. It is also with crude oil. What is that natural resource called? Anyone to supplement? You started well. It's actually the fossil fuels. So when you see natural gas, that is not air. The natural resource being utilized and talked about here is the fossil fuels. Okay? So you would be expected to tell me whether fossil fuels are renewable or non-renewable. I believe they are non-renewable, and you give the definition for non-renewable. Then you go into their composition. These things, you can pick the natural gas alone, who is talking in my class. You can pick the natural gas alone. Just wait. Someone is talking aloud. Okay, I'll continue. Please mute. You can pick the natural gas and tell us its composition. Whoever is talking in the microphone, you're giving us feedback and it's not good. Okay, thank you. So the natural gas, can you go and read your chemistry? Natural gas is a mixture of alkanes, which are hydrocarbons. So you can go ahead and tell us the hydrocarbons are made of hydrogen and carbon. Or you can even be good enough to tell us the alkanes which are in natural gas are methane, ethane, propane, and butane. Your answer will not be complete if you do not bring the category. It is category, reason, and components. On the other hand, if you had chosen to talk about coal, coal is also a fossil fuel, which is a non-renewable natural resource. You give the reason. The component of coal is mainly made up of carbon, but it also has small amounts of hydrogen, sulfur, and so on. So you do that kind of thing. So that would be the first part. Now, can we all look and identify the human activity in this test item? You're supposed to read the sentence and guess. Okay, you detect. I said we become detectives. Can you identify the natural resource? Sorry, you're identifying the human activity. Pajule, I'm sorry if I mispronounce the names of the schools. Pajule SS, your hand is up. Please unmute. Okay, Pajule has failed. I'm looking at Kabalega SS.
Energy
Yes.
production. It's energy production, particularly combustion.
Very good. So which means in your second paragraph, you are supposed to talk about the impact of this process of getting energy from the fossil fuels. And for me, some of the things I can think of when they are getting, how do they get the energy from the fossil fuels? They'll burn them, isn't it? Someone is still making noise. Please mute. Pajula, you didn't mute. Okay. You are supposed to tell us the story about how they get energy from these fossil fuels. So you could say, for example, when the natural gas is burnt to produce energy, that is the human activity. And it doesn't have a score yet, but it is guiding you to an answer. Then you tell us carbon dioxide gas is produced. For example, if that's what you want to say. Carbon dioxide gas is produced. You don't stop there. What is wrong with producing carbon dioxide? So you can go on and explain that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas which contributes to global warming. You'll have identified the impact and explained it. But tell us, so what are we going to do to mitigate this terrible thing of global warming? You'll say this can be mitigated by planting trees to absorb the excess carbon dioxide. Another person might choose not to talk about carbon dioxide and tells you the process of burning fossil fuels to produce energy releases gases like sulfur dioxide, because remember it has some components of sulfur, which cause acid rain. Okay, so how can we mitigate this? Or what we can say, yeah, which cause acid rain. This can be mitigated by inserting catalytic converters on vehicles which are burning the fuels or on chimneys of factories where the sulfur dioxide is released. That kind of answer is what we expect. So what am I saying? You must always go back and look at the scenario to identify the human activity whose impact you must talk about. Don't just pour them. That is why sometimes you find your teachers have ignored your very correct answer. It's because it is not suitable for that test item. Then the last one, you're going to tell us the benefits of conserving the fossil fuels. Okay? In this case, the fossil fuels can be used to generate electricity. And you explain a bit, how do they? For example, when they are burnt, they produce heat that is used to run turbines that end up producing electricity. At this point, you're going to get uses. Now, if this had been wiser and even crude oil was there, There are some components of crude oil which are used to manufacture medicines. The medicines are used for treating diseases. There are some components of crude oil which are used to manufacture dyes, which can be used to paint our buildings, and they look attractive, and so on and so forth. So this one sentence of, as a chemistry learner, write a presentation that can be used on the talk show. It is loaded with 3 paragraphs. The first one, giving the category, reason, example, and components. The second paragraph is loaded with the human activity happening in that village, its impact explained, and the mitigation. And then the third paragraph should have the benefits of conserving the natural resource. So that is all I can say of that test item. I see our time is fast spent, but I can take a question or two if there are any things that are not clear. Some of you have chosen to leave your hands up. Collier Comprehensive, you people are very happy. Can you share with us your happiness? Anyone asking a question from Collier? Yes.
Thank you, madam. My question, I'm just confused about what you talked, because you say that write the danger of the human activity on the natural resource, but again, you have given us the danger of the human activity on the environment.
Did I say we write of the danger on the natural resource? I could take you back a little bit. Oh, sorry. I want to take you backwards. This is what we are saying. Explain the impact of the identified human activity on the natural resource and its mitigation. Yes. For example, it ends up reaching the environment. I think I wasn't noticing this. The human activity you said is, what did we identify? Energy production. When you burn the energy, it produces a gas. Oh, so sorry, this is not supposed to be on the natural resource. It is supposed to be on the environment. I think that is the correction I should make. Is that okay? So tell us, when you burn the fossil fuels, what do they do to our environment? Because I said this item requires us to know that there are certain natural resources in our environment and they are important in our lives. So as we use them, we end up endangering our environment. Okay. Another question. I don't know who I can pick now. Amari SS. Amari, is anyone asking?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question. You are talking about the number. I not hear about the number of points that I'm supposed to give in the other part of item 3 and 2. No, 3 and 4. That's about, we're talking about iron. So I want to know, what are the maximum number of points that I'm supposed to give? Then maybe first answer that first.
Okay, let me go there and show you. For part A on the complete process, give the whole process as it is. The number of points vary from one process to another. Some processes are short, other processes are long. If it is long, you're going to give all of it the way it is. I think that is why there is a choice of items. You can choose to do item 3 or item 4. Choose the process you can handle. But for every process, give all the points that are supposed to be there in order to get the maximum marks. scores. Okay, you can go to the next question. Pardon?
The other part of giving the social benefits, maybe before the social benefit, the negative impacts on the environment. How many points should I give?
That's item.
Item is 3 and 4. The other part of the negative effects to the environment.
Those are 1-1. If you see this, part B, I say the side effect. We want one side effect. Write it well, explain it, and mitigate it. Then also the social benefit. They want one social benefit. Write it well and explain it. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that
Another
okay?
one.
But
Yes,
some of you
okay.
kept asking that what about if you write many? Even when you write many, they'll look out for one and score that. So I advise you to get ready with your good ones. Okay? Next question.
On this part of item 5 and 6. Now, like I've identified the scenario and what I'm supposed to give. You talked of paragraph 1 would be contain the category and reason learning components of the natural resources. That one, I do it very well. But I not hear you talking about the composition.
The components are what make up the composition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Okay. So when I say any 3 components, that's the composition, okay? I'm sorry if I've used the language which is different. Yes?
I think we are good to go.
Okay.
Maybe you can share
Our time has gone, but I'll pick this one. Lukome SS. Gulu. Please mute these ones. Mari, I've muted you. Let me hear from Lukome SS, and then we wind up because our data must be running out. Lukome? Sorry, Lukome, could you be louder? I'm sorry, can the person asking for Lukome draw near their microphone? Draw near the computer or whatever gadget. I'm sorry, I can't hear that. Oh. I'm sorry, I can't hear that. I don't know if I can pick another. Just one last person and then we go. Yikuru Secondary. I hope I'll hear you better. Yikuru, could you ask? Oh, sorry, please ask.
Okay, thank you, Madam. I appreciate your presentation. So what I just want to know is about the industrial process. Maybe when you have explained or you have demonstrated all the processes for manufacture, maybe something like a sodium hydroxide like that. Is it necessary for us to also draw the pictures and then will it be marked or not?
The pictures are supposed to help you to describe what you have failed to put in words. If you have put everything in words, the pictures will not add any extra scores. So usually the person scoring you will check the picture. Maybe you forgot to mention a raw material. If it's written there, then they can give the score. Or if you've forgotten to mention a vessel and you have labeled on the diagram, that kind of thing. But otherwise, it's not necessary if you can do your description well.
Okay, thank you so much.
I am going to request the person from Yikuru who has just spoken to give us a word of prayer so that we close this.
Okay, thank you. Let's humble ourselves and pray. Dear Heavenly Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much for the wonderful time you have given us to meet and discuss what is going to transform our lives in future, Lord Jesus. So what we have discussed here, Almighty Father, may you open our minds and take and put into consideration so that we can be able to transform our lives, Lord Jesus. May you bless our teachers and facilitators who have given us the knowledge, Lord Jesus. As we are going back to our various places, Lord Father, may you lead us, may you protect us up to our time for sitting for these exams, Lord Jesus. I pray all this in Jesus' name I do pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best in your exams.
Thank you so much, Teacher Eva, for that wonderful session. Thank you so much. And all the teachers that have been on the call, thank you so much for joining and for connecting the children online. We really appreciate. I know some of you came in late, but the good thing, the recording is available on YouTube, so you can be able to access the recording and the other anything you want. We shall ask schools that have been online, kindly you can take some photos and you can as well have an interview with the students to tell us what they have been able to learn and other things. Then you can share with us on the groups such that we can use that feedback to make these sessions better and more better, such that everyone can gain from them. Otherwise, we thank you so much. Thank you so much once again, Teacher Eve. Much everyone.